Right, well, hello everyone. I'm Richard Denning from Medusa Games, and this is the last stream that Medusa Games is doing at Virtually Expo. Hopefully, one or two of you will join us in a minute. And this video, anyway, will be available on the on the Medusa Games YouTube channel, which you can get to from our website. Afterwards, if you miss this one, it'll also be available below here on Twitch. If you want to watch it during the next 14 days. I think these videos tend to get wiped after 14 days though, so it's later than that you're going to need to go to YouTube. Okay, so this is just a short look at an upcoming expansion that we're planning to hopefully release next year. In the original version of Reality, this would have been a release in this year, but potentially in October at Essen. But of course, this version of Reality hasn't allowed that to happen. So it's been put back into 2021, where we hope to get it sorted. But it does allow us to spend more time playtesting it, and also to get the artwork done by Andre, Art of Andre. And to has a stand in the Virtual Expo Trade Hall if you want to pop and have a look at him. Great artist. So if you're a publisher looking for artists, it's well worth getting in touch with him. Anyway, so at the moment, this is just prototype art that we're showing here, so it isn't sketches and bits and pieces, but it'll give you an idea. So, Creatures and Monsters, what's it about? So, this is Nine Worlds. Those of you who do not know what Nine Worlds is, we did a playthrough of Nine Worlds on the Medusa Twitch during Virtually Expo weekend, which you should be able to see below. You can also go to the Medusa Game stand for the next few hours and ask for a demo of Nine Worlds. Nine Worlds is an area-controlled Norse, Germanic, Anglo-Germanic mythology themed game. Sort of relatively abstract sort of game, but quite a lot of sort of thematics built into it to hopefully bring that Norse theme through. So you are one of the avatars, one of the gods of the Nine Worlds. Perhaps you are, Sutir, the fire god, or you might be and are either from Svartalheim and so on. Or Beowulf from Midgard, and that's represented on the board by these little Lewis chess pawn style avatars, as we call them. This, by the way, is in Tabletopia. I'm showing you here. The physical game has obviously slightly different components. These little discs here are represented by the stones on the actual board. But otherwise the components are fairly close to what you get in the real physical game. You don't get these nice little bags though. That's the Tabletopia enhancement. So I'm not going to go into the gameplay of Nine Worlds specifically. There's another video if you want to know about that. There's videos on our trade stand, and of course you can just come through and ask for a demo. Don't be shy. We can give you a quick walkthrough, talk through, or we can actually play a full-on game of Nine Worlds, whatever you fancy. But it's all about controlling the worlds and having area control with as many stones as possible on the various worlds when you get to the scoring phases, which happen twice in the standard game. The difference that I'm talking about here is the Creatures and Monsters expansion, which we're working on at the moment. So Creatures and Monsters adds another dimension to the gameplay. So the monsters are creatures of sort of Norse Germanic mythology are rampaging around the Nine Worlds, and you've got to contend with those as well as to contend with the trying to dominate the Nine Worlds and move around the worlds and things as well. So you've got to have some decisions about where you're going to put your emphasis. So at the start of the game, the differences will be that you will lay out a number of these creature cards, which I'll discuss in a moment. Usually we're looking at the total numbers of these, but there'll be something like 3 or 4 of these out on the table. You will also place against each of these a number of counters, which are either these little bonus counters, which I'll flip over like that, which gives little benefits in the game, or penalty counters. Oops, that's a level 2 one. And there are two types of each of these for the 2 phases of the game. So the phase 1 is the first 3 turns of the game, so that's first scoring round. Phase 2 is the second part of the game to the second scoring round. So you take your counters, you put them down like that, and you'll populate. All of these will get set up that way at the start of the game. Additionally, you will say you'll place this here, which is the Viking, the muster point, or in this case we've made it a sort of mead hall effect. If you zoom in on that, you can see the original sketch art. This is meant to be a sort of mead hall, ale hall, where the Vikings are sort of having some mock fights here and having feasting and drinks and getting ready to go out and have battles and maybe some trophies from previous monster fights on the walls there. So that's the muster point. You will also give everybody 2 of these battle markers at the start of the game. So that's getting it ready for play. And then when we play the game, you will play the phases fairly normally, but there is a slightly different sequence of play which we're working on. Let me just see if this has it on. Down here at the bottom. So we play through the standard 9 worlds turn sequence of an order phase, an action phase, action points allocation, an action phase. All of this is like standard 9 worlds. So as I say, go and watch the other videos if you don't know what I'm talking about here. And then you get to this inserted phase here, the creatures and monsters phase. And this is where all this creature and monster action happens, and then we move on with the rest of the turns of the game pretty much as they are. We're going to work out how we do the numbering here, because of course the standard card doesn't have this phase in, so everything's been bumped down one. So we'll have a look at that. Anyway, in the creatures and monsters phase, you will do something. So in a standard turn, you do your normal thing. You'll work out who the first player is. Each player in turn will have their number of action points. So 7 here. I could, spend those. Maybe I've put 1, 2, 3 stones onto my card and then transferred them to one of the worlds that I'm on. And so that's 6 points spent so far. And now I've got an extra point, so I might decide for one of those points to place 1 stone into the muster hall to get ready to go off and try and fight some monsters. Okay. We then and another player. Let's get this guy over here. Is actually making a bit more of an effort on the monster fighting. This chap's having a go as well, and everybody is sort of like sending their warriors to fight the monsters. They all mustering in the mead hall before they go to battle. Okay, so that's this sort of phase. Once we get and that will all have happened in the action phase. So I've spent action points to do that. Once that has happened, at the end of the action phase, people can optionally choose to spend certain tokens that they picked up in the course of the game, and that might give them extra action points. But we now go to the monster phase. So in the monster phase, we take it in turns to start allocating these stones to these cards. So let's go and have a look at a card in a bit more detail. So here is a monster card. A monster card has its name. Obviously, it'll have a nice bit of art once it's all finished off. There is, if you want to see a little sneak peek of this, the main stage stream that I did only just a few moments ago on the main stage of the Virtually Expo has some sample of the art being shown. Anyway, that is the number of monster points this card is worth. So if you end up with this card, you will gain those points. These are the rewards for defeating the monster, and these are the penalties if the monster is not defeated, or might be suffered even if the monster is defeated. I'll come to that in a moment. These are places where your warriors are going to go to, your stones are going to go to, and the symbols within them, which will probably be icons, will reflect where the stones end up going back to after the monster card is dealt with. We'll come to that. So here we are, we're starting the stage, and all of these cards will have all these rewards all laid out, along the sides like this. I won't bother doing it all of them, but you get the idea, and they'll all be flipped over at the start. And people are basically might be looking at that and thinking, oh, I wouldn't mind that reward. And I'll explain the rewards in a moment. So I'm going to try and get this monster, or I fancy just getting the 2 points, or it might be that I fancy the card because at the top right of this particular card there is a monster power that you can use. So there are various reasons you might want to go for a particular monster. So I'll just put a couple of penalties into there. So the play then is in player order. So let's just go and examine our player order, which works the same way as the standard game. So we're going blue, green, red and orange. Get to put their stones one at a time though. So here we go. Blue goes first, and he fancies muscling in on the mare there. Blue, green. Green thinks, well, yeah, I want some of that action as well. Red is thinking, well, you know, only got 1 stone at the moment, but I tell you what, it wouldn't be bad to get the first place on one of these other cards, because at least I'm getting something out of that. Orange is obviously last of the party, but does have the option of sort of jumping in on that one. Okay, so then we go back round again, and blue's thinking, now I'm having this card, mate. So in that one goes there, and green is thinking, okay, you probably got that one. So yeah, I fancy I'm going to change my strategy here. I'm going to try and be involved in this card up here. And so on we go round until all the stones are used up, like that. All right, and so and then finally that one. So I've done well there, haven't I? There we go. Just get that back on the table. On Tabletopia. That's it. Behave yourself. That's it. Right, here we go. So after this phase, so what we've done here is we have done placing stones in turn order, taking in turns to move 1 stone from the muster point to any monster. Repeat this until all the stones are placed. Return any of those surplus stones. We're looking at whether those go back to the reserves or perhaps they stay on to future turns. That's a bit of a playtest point at the moment. And then we're going to go on to resolving the monsters. But before we do that, there are these little tokens that people had at the start of the game and that you can collect as rewards, see there, of defeating a monster. And these allow you for free to move a stone from your reserves directly to any monster. So this basically, this stage, you go around and you say, Blue, are you going to play any of those stones? You say, well, I've got this one. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna play one, and I'm gonna put a stone onto that monster there. There we go. So then we go and say, okay, green, what are you up for a bit of this? And he's looking at this one, thinking, you know what? I am up for a bit of this, because if I do that, I get to steal this card off poor old orange there. At which point friendships are broken. Okay, and then we move on to red. Well, red's looking at this card down here and thinking, well, I don't want to leave blue an opportunity to come back at me with his next stone and steal this one. So I'm not going to be fooled by that one. So yeah, I'm absolutely playing a free stone and taking one of them and putting it on there. So that card is mine. And at that point, all the spaces are filled, and so there's no ability to play any more of these, but keep them for future turns. So then we resolve the monsters, and we do them in this order from top to bottom if it becomes relevant. So the first thing you do, you clarify who is going to get the card and the rewards. Orange was in first, but green has got the most stones on there. So this has been a card that has been won by green. So green is going to get the card in a moment, but also it's going to get first choice of these rewards. So let's have a look at rewards. Rewards there's different sorts of rewards. There are rewards which are like these. These, if you look at the icons, are basically the icons that are on the world powers. So they do exactly the same thing. They're a one-off use, which you will get to use at the end of the monster phase. We'll come to that in a moment. This one, that's also a world power one. This is another one of these free sort of battle stones. tokens, so that's a good one to have to allow you to place 3 stones later. This is a change the player order token, so that allows you to change the player order at the start of a turn. So once you establish the player order under normal rules, you then can play that to change the player order by up to 2 steps. That is an extra action point. So at the end of the action phase, people can play those to get an extra action point. Okay. So what will actually happen here is that first of all, green gets a choice, and it will say, "Oh, you know, I'm going to take that stone." And green, and then it's orange, who's over there sulking at the moment because he just lost his card. And then you go back to green again, and you keep doing that until you've used all of the tokens up. Okay. Now we check to see then if there's any penalties. Now these penalties will apply if the monsters are not dealt with by the scoring round. So if there are any unresolved monsters with spare holes there, that means they've not been defeated. Then come the scoring round, the players who have contributed the least to the fight will take these penalties. Okay. However, if the monster is defeated, then what happens is sometimes one penalty is taken by the person who did the most to contribute. So in this case, what these numbers here tell us is that these 3 penalties would be suffered in the event of not defeating the monster by whoever did the least to fight it. And however, if the monster is defeated, the person who did the most to fight it has obviously taken wounds in the glorious heroic cause, and therefore has to choose one of these penalties. So green is thinking, well, I've got the card at least, but I'm going to suffer a hit for doing it. So I can either take this token, which means I've got to return a stone from any of the 9 worlds to my card, or I can take this one, which means it will take me back to my reserve. Well, stones on the cards are worth more than stones on in reserve, so he would obviously take that one, and he just gets discarded, and a stone gets returned to his card like that, and the other ones will just be discarded. Okay, so now we work out what happens to the armies. So this is where these icons that are underneath come into play. So this 9 here means that orange is going to place this stone anywhere in the 9 worlds. So let's say he'll decide to take it there. This one says that a stone goes back to green's home world. Orange gets one on its card, which is over here. Green gets one in his reserve, and so too for that green. So that has resolved the monster card, and that card goes into green's hand. It's just worth 2 victory points. It's not got any special powers. But at the end, I'll come to the end of the game in a second. So we then work our way down. We would resolve this one. We would resolve this one, and all this would be divvied up. And occasionally you get the choice of sending a stone to Valhalla, rather than 9 worlds or home world. And on the really nasty phase 2 cards, some stones get to go to Helheim, so you're really suffering for the fight in those cases. So once you've resolved all 3, we would deal out 3 new cards. If we're in the first phase of the game, the first 3 turns, that will come from the first deck. If we're in the second phase, then we would start to deal in nastier cards like these frost giants, sort of much more challenging to beat. Often they have more powers, they're worth more points. Okay, right, so that is just looking at our turn sequence. We have resolved the completed monsters, we have suffered the penalties if applied, and now we are going to use monster powers in turn order. So what happens now is there are monster powers, and then monster tokens are spent. So the monster powers are the ones that are in the top right corner of each of the monsters. And some of these monster powers are one-off uses in the turn. Some of them are situational sort of powers that are reactionary, shall we say. I'll see if I can find one of those, like that one. So this power here for the frost giants means that one time per turn you can return a stone from the 9 worlds to somebody's card. The Valkyrie power here means that when you take a stone back from Valhalla, you have the choice of either taking it back to your home world for scoring 3 points rather than the normal 2, or you could send it to any of the 9 worlds and just score the normal 2 points. So that means you can, and that is obviously a card you can use in a strategy where you're trying to do lots of battles, try and get stones into Valhalla to get them back again to score the extra points and so on. Okay, so we take it in player order. Anyone that's got cards with powers on, this one is take a stone that is in a world where you are, like that, and move it out into the next adjacent world. So that can repel a stone from wherever your avatar is. That one returns a stone to the home world, and there are other monster powers. After you've done the monster powers, you do monster tokens. So you go around again, player order. You say, does anybody want to spend a token? And Blue, have you got any tokens? This token is used in the monster phase, so it's not relevant right now. Next up is green. Well, green's got 2, so they take it in turns to do one of these and then the next. So he could either use this, which allows him to claim the Asgard power, which is you cannot play or be affected by any world powers. So you might decide to do that, so that it means he can't be hit by the world powers when we get to the world power phase. His other one here works the same as the standard Nidavellir power in the standard game, adding an extra stone to the board. Now the clever way around of doing that, of course, would be to first of all you do the Nidavellir one, and then when it gets around to him again, play the Asgard one. Can't use or be affected by world powers and things. So those are the monster the world tokens and things, the monster tokens, and then basically you would finish the monster phase, and you'd be carrying on with a fairly standard sequence of a turn. Come on, which is battles and world powers phase, Valhalla phase, scoring phase, and so on. Some of the tokens that you can pick up have powers in those other phases. They give you extra bonuses. There are sort of ones that give you bonuses at the end of the game, for instance, and are more powerful. They might give you this case three victory points, for example. Okay, so that essentially is creatures and monsters. It changes the dynamic of the game quite a bit, because you've got to decide, are we going to go for focusing our points into taking the 9 worlds, or are we going to try and defeat the monsters? You'll notice that stones come back from the monster cards onto the 9 worlds, so you can route stones through the monsters, but they might be pinned or trapped on those monster cards for a turn or two. So you have to balance that up. So sometimes it can be that somebody's going all out for controlling the 9 worlds. Red here, for example, has got more stones there, but ultimately lots of stones will get returned to the worlds from the monster cards. So when the blue one was resolved here, that would go to their home world. Green would get that on his card, and on blue they go back to the cards. And these, of course, are worth points if they're on the cards as well as on the worlds. So yeah, to change the dynamic, it does obviously add to game length, because there's more stuff, there's another phase, there's more stuff going on. So this is definitely something for more advanced players. So you played the base game, maybe you tried the Sagas and Treasures expansion with the Treasures of the Gods and things like that, and you're wanting more depth to the gameplay. And this definitely adds more depth and more options and a different dynamic to play. So we're going to carry on play testing this. It currently, although you can see it's on Tabletopia, it's not available in the public rooms on Tabletopia, but we are arranging playtest sessions. So at some stage, anybody wanted after Virtually Expo to arrange a playtest session with us, just get in touch with the Medusa Games website, medusagames.co.uk, and we can arrange to meet up in Discord on a Medusa server and take you through a playtest session sometime. And as I say, the plans are afoot at the moment to hopefully get this together in time, in about 12 months' time, possibly earlier, if the UK Games Expo actually happens next year, the physical real world of the NEC. We may be getting it ready for then, or it might be a release at Essen. We obviously wait to see on all of that. So thank you for listening in. A reminder that Medusa Games is still doing demos. If you want to try the Base 9 Worlds game, so you can see if you like the basic gameplay, or any of the games like Magnificent Flying Machines or Great Fire, they can give you demos of that right through to about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you for listening in, and this is the last of our streams on the Medusa Games channel for Virtually Expo, but we will be doing further streams when we have more game announcements and probably even live game plays of things like these expansions in coming months. So watch out for that, and thanks very much for listening.